Patty's Predicament by author Vicky Costello and illustrator Yip Jar Designs. Mrs. Becker teaches third grade. She loves her students and she loves to teach. On Monday morning, when Mrs. Becker told the class to begin their math work, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, my tummy hurts. I can't do my math work." When it was time to read, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, I need to get a bandage for my finger. I can't read right now." Then when it was time to write, Patty said, "I have a headache. I can't write now." Patty was really having a bad day and had a very sad face. Mrs. Becker smiled kindly and said, "Patty, just do your best and get your work done." At lunch, Mrs. Becker peeked into the cafeteria to check on Patty. Patty was eating her sandwich and apple slices as well as chatting with her friends. This made Mrs. Becker smile. On Tuesday morning, when Mrs. Becker told the class to begin their math work, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, my arm hurts. I can't do my math work." When it was time to read, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, I need to get some ice for my sore ankle. I can't read now." Then when it was time to write, Patty said, "I have an earache. I can't write right now." Mrs. Becker nodded and said, "Patty, just do your best and get your work done." During recess, Mrs. Becker put on her sunglasses and hat so she could walk around the playground. She noticed Patty playing with several friends. First, they were playing tag, then they were jumping rope. This made Mrs. Becker grin. On Wednesday morning, when Mrs. Becker told the class to begin their math work, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, my neck hurts. I can't do my math work." When it was time to read, Patty said, "Mrs. Becker, I need to go to the bathroom. I can't read now." Then it was time to write. Patty said, "I have a sore tooth. I can't write now." Mrs. Becker said, "Patty, just do your best and get your work done." After school, Mrs. Becker went to the gym to check on Patty. Patty was at a basketball practice and she was working hard with her team. This made Mrs. Becker beam. On Thursday morning, Mrs. Becker told the class to begin their math work just as the school nurse said over the intercom, "Mrs. Becker, can you please bring your class to the office? It is time for their vision screening." Mrs. Becker lined up all of her students and walked them quietly to Mr. James's office. The students took turns covering one eye and reading the letters on his eye chart, and then covering the other eye and reading more letters on his eye chart. Mr. James wrote down the smallest line of letters each student could read clearly. Then it was Patty's turn. "Patty, cover your right eye with your hand and read the second line of letters. For GSE, Patty said. Mr. James recorded her answers and said, "Patty, cover your left eye and read the third line of letters." "Okay, A37L. Thank you, Patty. You may return to your classroom," said Mr. James. Mr. James handed Patty's results to Mrs. Becker. Mrs. Becker felt sad and frowned. Patty returned to the classroom in time to begin math work. Mrs. Becker wrote the problems on the board in very large print. Patty sat quietly and completed her work. When it was time to read, Mrs. Becker read them a book. Patty sat quietly and listened. Then it was time to write. Mrs. Becker told the class to raise their hands and share their favorite part of the book with the class instead. Patty raised her hand and shared her favorite part of the book. Patty had a very good day and a very happy face. Mrs. Becker smiled and said, "Patty, can you please give this note to your parents? It is from Mr. James." On Friday morning, when Mrs. Becker asked the class to begin their math work, Patty was not in class. When it was time to read, Patty's desk was still empty. When it was time to write, there was a knock at the classroom door. Mrs. Becker opened the door and Patty entered wearing the cutest pair of teal glasses that Mrs. Becker had ever seen. Patty was smiling ear to ear and asked Mrs. Becker, "Is it writing time?" Mrs. Becker smiled and said, "Patty, you are just in time."